The radio crackled with static as Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison pressed the transmit button for the third time in 5 minutes. His voice carried the controlled tension that every SEAL learns to master when things go wrong. Bravo Base, this is Razor 17. We have enemy contact and are requesting immediate extraction. Over. The response came back weak and broken through the interference. Razor, red, barely, weather, hours. Morrison looked at his team of 6 SEALs positioned behind the rocky outcrop that had become their temporary fortress. They had been inserted into the mountainous region of Afghanistan 48 hours ago with a simple mission: locate and destroy a Taliban weapons cache that intelligence had identified through satellite imagery. What should have been a routine operation had turned into something much more dangerous. The weapons cache had been empty when they reached it. Worse than empty, it had been a trap. The Taliban fighters had used it as bait, and Morrison's team had walked right into their kill zone. Now they were pinned down on a barren hillside with limited ammunition and no clear escape route. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez crawled up beside Morrison, her rifle ready and her eyes scanning the terrain below them. She had been with SEAL Team 6 for 3 years and had seen her share of difficult situations, but this one felt different. The enemy had them positioned exactly where they wanted them. "Sir, I count at least 20 hostiles in the valley below. They've got us bracketed on 3 sides, and the only way out is up that ridge behind us," Rodriguez reported, pointing to a steep slope covered with loose rocks and sparse vegetation. Morrison studied the ridge through his binoculars. It would be a difficult climb under normal circumstances, but with enemy fire raining down on them, it would be nearly impossible. The Taliban fighters had chosen their ambush site well. The SEALs were trapped between the rocky outcrop and the ridge, with nowhere to run and limited options for fighting back. Petty Officer First Class Tony Chun moved up to join them, carrying the team's heavy machine gun. Chun had been the team's designated marksman before cross-training on crew-served weapons, and his shooting skills had saved them more than once during their deployment. But even his expertise with the big gun wouldn't be enough to get them out of this situation. "They're starting to move up the sides of the valley," Chin observed, settling the machine gun on its bipod. "Looks like they're trying to flank us from the east and west while keeping us pinned down with fire from the south." Morrison nodded grimly. It was a textbook envelopment maneuver, and the Taliban fighters were executing it with surprising discipline. These weren't untrained farmers with old rifles. They were experienced fighters who knew how to work together as a unit. The sound of gunfire erupted from below as the Taliban opened up with automatic weapons. Bullets sparked off the rocks around the SEALs, sending chips of stone flying through the air. Morrison's team returned fire, but they were vastly outnumbered and running low on ammunition. Seaman James Park pressed himself against the rocks as bullets whined overhead. He was the youngest member of the team, having joined SEAL Team 6 only 8 months earlier. This was his first deployment to Afghanistan, and he was learning quickly that real combat was nothing like the training scenarios back at Coronado. "How much ammo do we have left?" Morrison called out to his team members. The responses weren't encouraging. Most of the SEALs were down to their last few magazines, and Chin's machine gun had less than 200 rounds remaining. They had been in the firefight for over an hour, and their ammunition was running dangerously low. Hospital Corpsman Second Class David Kim crawled over to check on Petty Officer Second Class Mike Sullivan, who had taken a bullet graze across his shoulder during the initial contact. Kim had patched up the wound, but Sullivan was still able to fight. Every rifle would be needed if they were going to survive the next few hours. The bleeding stopped, but "You need to keep that arm moving or it's going to stiffen up," Kim told Sullivan as he finished applying a fresh bandage. Sullivan flexed his shoulder and winced slightly, but nodded his understanding. He had been through worse during his 6 years as a SEAL, and a flesh wound wasn't going to keep him out of the fight. Morrison tried the radio again, hoping to establish better contact with their base. The static was still heavy, but he could make out fragments of conversation. The weather in the area was deteriorating rapidly, with high winds and scattered snow showers making helicopter operations extremely dangerous. Even if the rescue birds could get airborne, it would be hours before they could reach the team's position. "Sir, they're moving closer," Rodriguez reported, peering through her rifle scope at the Taliban fighters advancing up the hillside. "Range is about 400 meters and closing." Morrison made a quick calculation. At their current rate of advance, the enemy would be within effective rifle range in less than 10 minutes. Once that happened, the SEALs' advantage of holding higher ground would be negated by sheer numbers. The radio, suddenly, burst to life with a clearer signal. "Razor 17, this is Bravo Base. We copy your transmission. Extraction birds are grounded due to weather conditions. Estimate minimum 4 hours before we can launch rescue mission. Can you hold your position?" Morrison looked at his depleted team and their dwindling ammunition supply. 4 hours might as well be 4 days given their current situation. But he keyed the microphone and gave the only answer a SEAL could give. "Bravo Base will hold as long as we can. Razor 17 out." The Taliban fighters seemed to sense that the Americans were in trouble. Their advance became more aggressive, with groups of fighters moving from cover to cover while others provided suppressing fire. Morrison watched through his binoculars as they coordinated their movements with hand signals and shouted commands. Chin opened up with a machine gun, sending long bursts down into the valley. His fire was accurate and deadly, dropping several Taliban fighters and forcing the others to take cover. But the return fire was intense, and Chun had to duck back behind the rocks as bullets shattered against the stone inches from his head. "They've got us zeroed in," Chin reported. "Every time I stick my head up, they pour on the fire." Morrison knew they needed to do something to break up the enemy advance, but their options were extremely limited. They could try to fight their way out, but that would mean leaving their defensive position and moving across open ground under fire. They could try to climb the ridge behind them, but that would leave them exposed on the hillside with no cover. Rodriguez suddenly pointed to the east side of the valley. "Sir, I see movement on that ridgeline. Looks like they're trying to get above us." Morrison swung his binoculars in that direction and cursed under his breath. A group of Taliban fighters was working their way up a goat trail on the eastern ridge. If they reached the top, they would have a clear shot down into the SEALs' position. The rocky outcrop that was protecting them from fire below would offer no protection from above. "How long before they reach the top?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez studied the terrain carefully. "Maybe 20 minutes if they keep moving at that pace." Morrison felt the weight of command pressing down on him. In 20 minutes, his team would be completely exposed to enemy fire from multiple directions. They were already outnumbered and low on ammunition. Once the Taliban gained the high ground, it would be over. Park crawled over with an update on their ammunition situation. "Sir, we're down to an average of 2 magazines per man. Chin's got maybe 150 rounds left for the machine gun." Morrison nodded and checked his own ammunition. 2 magazines and a handful of loose rounds, enough for maybe 5 more minutes of sustained fighting. He had to make a decision soon, and none of the available options looked good. The radio crackled again with another transmission from base. "Razor 17, be advised we're working on alternate extraction methods. Stand by for further updates." Morrison almost smiled despite their desperate situation. Alternate extraction methods was military speak for "we don't know what we're going to do, but we're thinking about it." He appreciated the effort, but radio calls wouldn't stop the Taliban fighters who were steadily closing in on his team's position. Sullivan moved up beside Morrison, his wounded shoulder clearly causing him discomfort, but his rifle still ready for action. "Sir, what's the plan?" Morrison looked at his team, 6 of the most highly trained special operations soldiers in the world, trapped on a hillside in Afghanistan with nowhere to run and no way out. They were SEALs, and SEALs didn't surrender. They would fight until the last round was fired and the last man fell. "We hold this position and make them pay for every inch," Morrison said simply. "And we wait for a miracle." The Taliban fighters below seemed to sense that time was on their side. Their advance slowed slightly as they took more careful positions, content to let the Americans exhaust their ammunition while the flanking force worked its way up the eastern ridge. It was a smart tactical decision that showed these fighters understood modern warfare. Kim checked his medical supplies while keeping watch for enemy movement. As the team's corpsman, he carried extra ammunition for his rifle along with medical equipment, but he was down to his last magazine like everyone else. He had enough medical supplies to treat several more wounded, but that wouldn't matter if they were all dead. The wind picked up, carrying with it the promise of more snow. Morrison could see dark clouds gathering over the mountains, and the temperature was dropping rapidly. Even if they somehow survived the next few hours, they would face the additional challenge of surviving a night in the mountains during an early winter storm. Chun fired another burst from the machine gun, this time at the flanking force on the eastern ridge. His bullets sparked off the rocks near the advancing Taliban fighters, forcing them to take cover momentarily. But Morrison could see that they would resume their advance as soon as Chun shifted his fire to another target. "Sir, we need to do something about that flanking force," Rodriguez said. "Once they get above us, we're finished." Morrison knew she was right, but he also knew they couldn't spare anyone to deal with the threat. Every rifle was needed to hold off the main force advancing from below. Splitting their defensive fire would just hasten their defeat. The radio came to life again with another transmission. "Razor 1-7, this is Bravo Base. We have a possible solution developing. Can you mark your position with smoke?" Morrison looked at his team's remaining supplies. They had 2 smoke grenades left, one red and one green. Using them would mark their position for friendly forces, but it would also clearly identify their location for every Taliban fighter in the valley. "Bravo Base, we can mark our position, but it will compromise our concealment. What kind of solution are you working on?" The response was cryptic, but encouraging. "Razor 1-7, just be ready to mark your position when we give the word. Help is on the way." Morrison didn't know what kind of help could possibly reach them in the next few minutes, but he had to trust that someone back at base had come up with a plan. He pulled the pin from the green smoke grenade and held it ready, waiting for the word to deploy it. The Taliban fighters seemed to sense that something was happening. Their advance became more cautious, with leaders shouting orders and fighters taking better defensive positions. They had been in enough firefights to know that Americans didn't give up easily, and they were probably wondering what the SEALs had planned. Chun was down to his last belt of ammunition for the machine gun. Once that was gone, their heavy firepower advantage would be eliminated entirely. Morrison watched as Chun fired careful, controlled bursts, making every round count. The flanking force on the eastern ridge was getting closer to their objective. Morrison estimated they had maybe 10 more minutes before those fighters reached a position where they could fire down into the SEALs' defensive position. After that, it would be over very quickly. Park suddenly grabbed Morrison's arm and pointed toward the southern end of the valley. "Sir, do you see that? On the ridgeline, about 1,000 meters out." Morrison raised his binoculars and scanned the area Park was indicating. At first he saw nothing but rocks and sparse vegetation. Then he caught a brief glint of reflected light. There for just a moment, then gone. "Could be a rifle scope," Morrison said. "But whose?" Rodriguez followed Morrison's gaze through her own rifle scope, adjusting the magnification to get a better look at the distant ridgeline. The glint had appeared again, just for a split second, but long enough for her to get a bearing on its location. "Sir, that's definitely someone with optics," she confirmed. "Range looks to be about 900 to 1,000 meters south-southeast of our position." Morrison felt a mixture of hope and concern. If it was an American sniper team, they might finally have the support they desperately needed. But if it was another Taliban position, they were about to be caught in crossfire from multiple directions. The radio crackled again with another transmission from base. "Razor 1-7, this is Bravo Base. We have Guardian Angel in position. Prepare to mark your position on my command." Guardian Angel, that was the call sign for sniper Overwatch missions. Morrison felt a surge of relief as he realized what was happening. Somewhere in the mountains, an American sniper had managed to get into position to provide support for his trap team. Chun fired another burst from the machine gun, this time targeting a group of Taliban fighters who had advanced to within 300 meters of the SEALs' position. His bullets found their mark, dropping 2 fighters and scattering the others back to cover. But Morrison could see that the enemy was preparing for a final assault. "Bravo base, Razor 17 is ready to mark position," Morrison transmitted, holding the green smoke grenade ready. "Razor 17, deploy smoke now. Guardian Angel is cleared hot." Morrison pulled the pin and threw the smoke grenade away from their position. Green smoke began billowing from the canister, clearly marking the SEAL's location for anyone watching the valley. Within seconds, the Taliban fighters below began pointing at the smoke and shouting instructions to their comrades. Sullivan cursed as bullets began impacting closer to their position. "Sir, they've got us dialed in now. That smoke just painted a target on us." Morrison knew Sullivan was right, but he also knew they had to trust that the sniper support would make the risk worthwhile. Somewhere in the mountains, an American marksman was lining up shots that could save their lives. The flanking force on the eastern ridge had picked up their pace, realizing that time was running out. Morrison could see them moving from cover to cover, working their way steadily upward toward the position where they would have clear shots into the SEAL's defensive position. Kim kept his rifle trained on the advancing fighters while monitoring Sullivan's wound. The shoulder injury wasn't life-threatening, but it was limiting Sullivan's ability to aim accurately. Every rifle counted in their current situation, and Kim was doing everything he could to keep all his teammates in the fight. Park was down to his last magazine and had switched his rifle to semi-automatic to conserve ammunition. Every shot had to count now. He could see Taliban fighters massing for what looked like a coordinated assault from multiple directions. "Sir, they're getting ready to rush us," Park reported, watching through his rifle scope as fighters positioned themselves for the final attack. Morrison nodded grimly. The Taliban fighters had been patient, wearing down the Americans' ammunition and positioning themselves for maximum advantage. Now, they were preparing to finish the job with overwhelming force. Chun fired his last belt of ammunition from the machine gun, sweeping the slope below their position with sustained bursts. The heavy weapon had been their primary advantage during the firefight, keeping the enemy at a respectful distance. Without it, they would be forced to rely on individual rifles against superior numbers. "Machine guns down," Chun reported, pulling his sidearm and checking the ammunition. "I'm switching to pistol." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. 7 Americans with limited ammunition facing at least 20 Taliban fighters who were closing in from 3 directions. Morrison knew they had maybe 5 minutes before the enemy reached positions where resistance would be impossible. Rodriguez suddenly called out, "Movement on the southern ridge. Someone's repositioning." Morrison looked through his binoculars toward the position where they had seen the glint earlier. For a moment, he caught sight of a figure in camouflage, clothing moving carefully between the rocks. The person was clearly trying to remain hidden while getting a better angle on the valley below. The radio came to life with a new voice, calm, professional, and speaking with the measured tone of someone who was completely focused on the task at hand. "Razor 17, this is Guardian Angel. I have eyes on your position and visual on multiple hostiles. Stand by for engagement." Morrison felt a surge of hope. Somewhere out there, an American sniper was preparing to even the odds. He keyed his microphone quickly. "Guardian Angel, be advised we have friendlies marked by green smoke. Enemy forces approaching from south, east, and west. Copy, Razor 17. I have positive identification on hostile forces. Beginning engagement now." The first shot came without warning, a sharp crack that echoed across the valley. One of the Taliban fighters advancing up the eastern ridge suddenly spun around and collapsed, his rifle clattering down the rocky slope. The other fighters immediately dove for cover, looking around frantically to determine where the shot had come from. Rodriguez watched through her scope as the remaining fighters on the eastern ridge pressed themselves against the rocks, clearly confused and frightened by the sudden death of their comrade. "That was at least an 800-meter shot," she said with professional admiration. Chun grinned as he watched the Taliban fighters scrambling for better cover. Whoever Guardian Angel is, they know their business. The second shot came less than 30 seconds later. This time the target was one of the fighters in the main group advancing from the south. The bullet took him down instantly, and the rest of his squad immediately hit the ground and began searching the ridgelines for the sniper's position. Morrison could hear shouting from below as the Taliban fighters tried to coordinate their response to this new threat. They were clearly experienced fighters, but being shot by an invisible enemy from an unknown position was having a serious impact on their morale. Sullivan managed to smile despite the pain in his shoulder. Guardian Angel is putting the fear of God into those guys. Look at them jumping at shadows. The third shot targeted the western flanking force, dropping the fighter who appeared to be their leader. The remaining Taliban fighters on that side of the valley immediately abandoned their advance and fell back to more defensible positions. Kim noticed that the enemy's rate of fire had decreased significantly. "Sir, they've stopped shooting at us. They're all trying to figure out where that sniper is." Morrison realized that Guardian Angel had accomplished more than just eliminating enemy fighters. The psychological impact of being hunted by an unseen marksman was disrupting the Taliban's coordinated attack. Their disciplined advance had turned into a scramble for cover. The radio crackled with another transmission from the sniper. "Razor 1-7. I count approximately 15 to 18 remaining hostiles scattered across 3 positions. They're trying to locate my position, which gives you an opportunity to improve yours." Morrison looked at his team and quickly assessed their situation. With the enemy distracted and disorganized, this might be their only chance to move to a more defensible position. The ridge behind them was still steep and exposed, but it was better than staying pinned down in their current location. "Guardian Angel, can you provide covering fire if we attempt to displace to higher ground?" "Affirmative, Razor 1-7. I have good visibility on all enemy positions from my current location. Move when ready." Morrison made a quick decision. "Rodriguez, take point. Chun and Park provide rear security. Kim, stay with Sullivan and help him with that shoulder. We're moving to the ridge." The team began moving carefully up the steep slope behind their position. The loose rocks made footing treacherous, and they had to be careful not to dislodge stones that might alert the enemy to their movement. The fourth shot rang out just as the SEALs reached a small ledge halfway up the ridge. Guardian Angel had targeted another fighter from the eastern flanking force, this one who had been trying to work his way around to get a better angle on the Americans' previous position. Rodriguez found a natural depression in the rock that would provide better cover than their original position. "Sir, this looks good. We've got clear fields of fire down into the valley, and that overhang will protect us from above." Morrison nodded and signaled for the team to take up positions in the new location. They were higher up the slope now, which gave them a better view of the entire battlefield and made it more difficult for the Taliban fighters to approach undetected. Park was setting up his rifle when he spotted movement in the valley below. "Sir, looks like some of them are trying to withdraw. I count 5 or 6 fighters moving south toward the far end of the valley." Through his binoculars, Morrison could see what Park was describing. Several Taliban fighters were indeed attempting to break contact and withdraw from the engagement. The combination of accurate sniper fire and the Americans' move to higher ground had apparently convinced them that the ambush was no longer worth the cost. The fifth and final shot from Guardian Angel targeted the last fighter from the eastern flanking force. The man had been trying to provide covering fire for his withdrawing comrades when the sniper's bullet found him. After that shot, the remaining Taliban fighters abandoned any pretense of continuing the attack and began a full withdrawal toward the southern end of the valley. Chen watched through his rifle scope as the last of the enemy fighters disappeared behind the rocky terrain. "I think that's it, sir. They're pulling out." Morrison kept his binoculars focused on the valley below, watching for any sign that the withdrawal might be a tactical deception. But after 10 minutes with no movement or sound from the former enemy positions, he began to believe that the threat was over. The radio came to life with Guardian Angel's voice. "Razor 1-7. This is Guardian Angel. I show no movement in target area. Hostiles appear to have broken contact and withdrawn south. Guardian Angel, this is Razor 1-7. Outstanding work. Can you provide us with your location for link-up?" There was a pause before the sniper responded. "Negative, Razor 1-7. I'm maintaining Overwatch position until your extraction arrives. We'll provide security for landing zone. Morrison understood. Guardian Angel would stay hidden and provide sniper support until the rescue helicopters arrived. It was the professional thing to do, ensuring that the SEALs were protected throughout the entire extraction process. Kim checked Sullivan's shoulder wound again and was pleased to see that the bleeding had completely stopped. "You're going to be fine," he told Sullivan. "Probably need some stitches when we get back to base, but nothing that won't heal." Rodriguez was scanning the valley through her rifle scope, looking for any sign of remaining enemy presence. "I don't see anything moving down there, sir." Looks like Guardian Angel convinced them this wasn't worth the fight. Morrison tried the radio again, hoping to establish better communication with their base now that the immediate threat had passed. "Bravo base, this is Razor 17. Enemy contact has been neutralized with assistance from Guardian Angel. Request immediate extraction." The response came back much clearer than before. "Razor 17, this is Bravo base. Outstanding work. Extraction birds are spinning up now. Estimate 30 minutes to your location. Weather is improving, and we should have no problem getting you out." Park managed his first smile in hours. 30 minutes sounds like heaven right now. Chun was field stripping his machine gun to make sure it hadn't been damaged during the firefight. The weapon had performed flawlessly throughout the engagement, and he wanted to ensure it would be ready for their next mission. Morrison looked at his team and felt a surge of pride. They'd been outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped with nowhere to run. But they had held their position and fought with the skill and determination that made SEALs legendary. And somewhere in the mountains, an unknown sniper had provided exactly the support they needed at exactly the right moment. The sound of rotors in the distance announced the arrival of their extraction helicopters. Morrison could see two Black Hawks approaching from the north, flying low and fast across the mountainous terrain. Sullivan stood up slowly, testing his wounded shoulder. "Sir, do we know who Guardian Angel is? I'd like to buy that shooter a beer when we get back to base." Morrison smiled. "I have a feeling we'll find out soon enough. Snipers like that don't stay anonymous for long." As the helicopters settled into the landing zone that Guardian Angel was securing from his hidden position, Morrison realized that they had just experienced something special. 5 perfectly placed shots from an unknown distance had turned a desperate last stand into a successful extraction. The mystery sniper had appeared exactly when needed and disappeared just as quietly, leaving behind only the evidence of incredible marksmanship and professional skill. The Black Hawk helicopters touched down in a cloud of dust and debris, their rotors spinning at full power as the crew chiefs scanned the surrounding terrain for any signs of enemy activity. Morrison's team moved quickly toward the aircraft, keeping low to avoid the rotor wash while maintaining their defensive spacing. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez was the first to reach the lead helicopter, where a crew chief helped pull her aboard. She immediately moved to the door gunner's position, her rifle ready to provide covering fire if any Taliban fighters had remained in the area to contest the extraction. Chen carried his machine gun in one hand while helping Sullivan board the second helicopter. The corpsman Kim stayed close to Sullivan, ready to provide medical attention during the flight back to base if the shoulder wound began bleeding again. Morrison took one last look around the valley before climbing aboard the lead helicopter. Somewhere in the mountains, Guardian Angel was still maintaining overwatch, ensuring that the extraction proceeded without interference. The professional skill displayed by the unknown sniper had saved their lives, and Morrison wanted to make sure that contribution was properly recognized. As the helicopters lifted off and began their flight back to the forward operating base, Morrison keyed his radio one final time. "Guardian Angel, this is Razor 17 departing the area. Thank you for the outstanding support. We owe you one." The response came back clear and professional. "Copy, Razor 17. Glad I could help. Safe flight back to base." Park settled into his seat and finally allowed himself to relax for the first time in hours. The young SEAL had performed well under pressure, demonstrating the training and mental toughness that had earned him his place on the team. But the experience had taught him valuable lessons about real combat that no training scenario could provide. Rodriguez was reviewing the engagement in her mind, analyzing what had gone right and what had gone wrong. The mission had started as a routine weapons cache destruction, but had turned into a complex combat situation that required quick thinking and professional skill to survive. The flight back to base took 25 minutes, flying over terrain that looked peaceful and empty from the air. It was hard to believe that just an hour earlier, that same landscape had been the scene of an intense firefight that could have ended very differently. Chen used the flight time to clean his machine gun thoroughly, checking every component for damage or excessive wear. The weapon had fired over 800 rounds during the engagement, and he wanted to ensure it would be ready for the next mission without any mechanical problems. Kim checked Sullivan's vital signs and was pleased to see that the wounded SEAL was stable and alert. The bullet graze had been painful, but not serious, and Sullivan would be back on duty within a few days after receiving proper medical treatment. As the helicopters approached the forward operating base, Morrison could see crowds of personnel gathering around the landing zone. Word of their successful extraction had apparently spread quickly through the base, and everyone wanted to hear the details of what had happened in the mountains. Colonel James Patterson, the base commander, was waiting at the landing zone when the helicopters touched down. Patterson was a career special operations officer who had commanded SEAL teams for over 15 years, and he understood the significance of what had just occurred. Morrison's team climbed out of the helicopters and formed up for a quick head count and status report. Despite their ordeal, they maintained the professional bearing that was expected of special operations personnel. Sullivan was helped to the medical facility for treatment of his shoulder wound, while the rest of the team prepared for the detailed debriefing that would follow any combat engagement. Patterson approached Morrison with a mixture of relief and curiosity on his face. "Jake, good to see you, and your team made it out in one piece. We're monitoring the radio traffic, and it sounded like you ran into more than you bargained for." Morrison nodded as he slung his rifle and removed his helmet. "Yes, sir." The weapons cache was empty, and we walked into a well-planned ambush. 20-plus Taliban fighters with good positions and disciplined tactics. We were pinned down with limited ammunition when Guardian Angel showed up. Patterson raised an eyebrow at the mention of the unknown sniper. "Guardian Angel? That wasn't one of our assets. We don't have any sniper teams deployed in that sector." Morrison felt a chill of confusion. "Sir, Guardian Angel provided precision rifle support from approximately 1,000 meters. 5 shots, 5 kills. Professional-grade marksmanship that broke up the enemy attack and allowed us to extract safely." Patterson looked puzzled. "Jake, I'm telling you we don't have any snipers in that area. All of our long-range assets are accounted for and deployed in other sectors. Whoever helped you out there wasn't one of ours." Rodriguez joined the conversation, having overheard the exchange between Morrison and Colonel Patterson. "Sir, I saw the muzzle flashes and observed the bullet impacts. Someone was definitely providing sniper support from the southern ridgeline. The shooting was too accurate to be anything other than professional military training." Patterson pulled out his radio and contacted the base operations center. "Operations, this is 6. I need a complete account of all friendly forces in Grid Square 74 Alpha. Include any special operations assets, conventional forces, or coalition partners." The response came back within minutes. 6, this is operations. We show no friendly forces in that grid square. All coalition partners are accounted for in their assigned sectors. No special operations assets are deployed in that area. Morrison exchanged glances with his team members. The mystery was deepening rather than being resolved. Someone had definitely provided sniper support that saved their lives, but apparently it wasn't anyone from their own side. Chen spoke up with his own observations. "Sir, I watched the enemy fighters' reactions to the sniper fire. They were definitely taking casualties from long-range precision shooting. Those weren't stray bullets or lucky shots. Someone was targeting specific individuals with deliberate aim." Patterson considered the situation carefully. As a career special operations officer, he had seen many unusual circumstances, but this one was particularly puzzling. Military snipers didn't just appear randomly in combat zones to help trap friendly forces. Kim returned from escorting Sullivan to the medical facility with an update on the wounded SEAL's condition. "Sir, Sullivan's going to be fine. The docs say he'll need a few stitches and some rest, but he should be ready for duty in a week or so." Patterson nodded and then addressed the entire team. "I want you all to get cleaned up and grab some chow. We'll conduct a full debriefing in 2 hours. I want every detail about this Guardian Angel character, position, timing, communication protocols, everything you can remember." Park was reviewing the engagement timeline in his mind when something occurred to him. "Sir, Guardian Angel knew our call sign and radio frequency. That's not information that would be available to random personnel." Morrison realized Park was right. Guardian Angel had communicated on their tactical frequency and had used proper military protocols throughout the engagement. This suggested someone with access to current operational communications procedures. Rodriguez added another piece to the puzzle. The sniper also knew our extraction timeline. Guardian Angel maintained overwatch throughout the helicopter pickup, which means someone had advanced knowledge of the rescue operation. Patterson was becoming increasingly interested in solving this mystery. In his years of commanding special operations forces, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. Professional snipers didn't just appear out of nowhere to provide support to friendly forces. Chin mentioned something that had been bothering him since the firefight ended. "Sir, I've been thinking about those shots. The range was at least 900 meters, probably closer to 1,000. That's expert-level marksmanship, even under ideal conditions. Doing it in combat with moving targets takes exceptional skill." Morrison agreed with Chin's assessment. The timing was perfect, too. Guardian Angel waited until we were completely pinned down before engaging, then took out exactly the right targets to break up the enemy attack. That shows tactical understanding, not just shooting ability. Patterson decided to expand the investigation beyond just Morrison's team. "I'm going to contact higher headquarters and see if anyone else has assets in that area. Maybe there's a special access program or classified operation we're not aware of." Kim brought up another possibility that had occurred to him during the medical evacuation. "Sir, what if Guardian Angel isn't American? Could be coalition special forces or even friendly local forces with good equipment and training." Patterson considered that possibility, but rejected it quickly. "All coalition forces coordinate through our operations center, and local forces don't have access to our radio frequencies or communication protocols. Plus, the level of marksmanship you described requires years of professional training." Park suggested another angle for the investigation. "Sir, maybe we could analyze the ballistic evidence. If Guardian Angel left shell casings or bullet impacts, we might be able to determine what kind of rifle and ammunition was used." Morrison liked that idea. "We could send a team back to the area to conduct a forensic examination. Look for sniper positions, spent cartridges, anything that might provide clues about who was helping us." Rodriguez was already thinking about the tactical aspects of such a mission. "We need to approach the area carefully. If there are still Taliban fighters in the region, sending an investigation team could be dangerous." Patterson made a decision. "I'll coordinate with intelligence and send a specialized team to examine the area tomorrow. They'll look for physical evidence and try to reconstruct Guardian Angel's position and fields of fire." Chin was curious about one specific aspect of the sniper's performance. "Sir, whoever it was had excellent target selection. Guardian Angel took out the flanking forces first, then the leadership elements in the main group. That shows advanced tactical thinking." Morrison nodded in agreement. It wasn't random shooting. Guardian Angel clearly understood the tactical situation and engaged targets in a way that would have maximum impact on the enemy's ability to coordinate their attack. Kim brought up a medical consideration that might provide additional clues. "Sir, I'd like to examine the enemy casualties when the investigation team goes back. Wound patterns and bullet trajectories might help determine the exact shooting position and type of weapon used." Patterson approved Kim's suggestion. "Good thinking. Document include that in the forensic examination." Any physical evidence we can gather might help solve this mystery. Park was still puzzled by the communication protocols. Sir, it really bothers me that Guardian Angel knew our exact radio frequency and call signs. That information is classified and compartmented. Someone would need specific operational access to have that data. Rodriguez suggested checking communication logs. We could review all radio traffic from that time period, see if anyone else was monitoring our frequency or if there were any unusual transmissions. Patterson liked the thoroughness of the team's approach to solving the mystery. I'll have communications pull all the logs from today's operation. We'll analyze every transmission and see if we can identify any patterns or anomalies. Morrison was beginning to form a theory about their mysterious helper. Sir, what if Guardian Angel is one of ours, but operating under such deep cover that normal command channels don't know about it? Special access programs sometimes operate independently of conventional command structures. Patterson considered that possibility seriously. It's possible, but those programs usually have some kind of coordination mechanism to prevent friendly fire incidents. They wouldn't just appear in a combat zone without some way to identify themselves to regular forces. Chun brought up the precision of the shooting again. Sir, those 5 shots were absolutely perfect. No wasted ammunition, no missed targets, no hesitation between shots. That level of performance suggests someone with extensive combat experience and exceptional training. Kim added his own professional perspective. The sniper also showed excellent fire discipline. Guardian Angel only engaged when necessary and stopped shooting once the threat was neutralized. No excessive force or unnecessary killing. Park summarized what they knew so far. So we have a highly trained marksman with access to classified communications, advanced tactical understanding, and the ability to appear and disappear without being detected by our surveillance systems. Morrison looked at his team and then at Colonel Patterson. Sir, I don't care who Guardian Angel is or where he came from. That sniper saved our lives, and we owe him a debt of gratitude. Patterson nodded in agreement. Absolutely, Jake. But as a commander, I need to understand what happened out there. If we have unaccounted for assets operating in our area of responsibility, that could have serious implications for future operations. Rodriguez made a practical suggestion. Sir, maybe we should put out a general message through command channels. Let Guardian Angel know we're looking to make contact and express our appreciation. Patterson thought that was a reasonable approach. I'll draft a message and send it through all available channels. If Guardian Angel is one of ours, hopefully he'll respond and we can get some answers. As the team prepared to head to the debriefing session, Morrison took one last look toward the mountains where Guardian Angel had provided such crucial support. Whoever the mysterious sniper was, he had demonstrated the kind of professional skill and tactical judgment that made the difference between life and death in combat situations. The debriefing room at Forward Operating Base Chapman was filled with maps, photographs, and communication equipment as Morrison's team gathered around the conference table. Colonel Patterson had assembled a small group of intelligence specialists and operations officers to help analyze every detail of the engagement with Guardian Angel. Major Sarah Williams from the intelligence section had prepared a detailed topographical analysis of the area where the firefight had occurred. She spread the maps across the table, marking the SEAL's position, the Taliban fighters' locations, and the approximate position where Guardian Angel had been operating. Based on your descriptions, the sniper was positioned somewhere along this ridgeline, Williams explained, pointing to an elevated area approximately 1,000 meters south of where Morrison's team had been trapped. The angle and range are consistent with the bullet impacts you observed. Rodriguez studied the map carefully, using her memory of the engagement to verify the intelligence officer's calculations. That looks about right, ma'am. I remember seeing muzzle flashes from that general area, and the bullet trajectories were consistent with someone shooting from an elevated position. Captain Mike Torres from the operations section had been monitoring all radio communications throughout the base for any sign of unaccounted for transmissions. I've reviewed every radio log from yesterday's operation, and Guardian Angel's communications only appeared on your tactical frequency. No other channels picked up those transmissions. Morrison found that information particularly puzzling. Sir, that suggests Guardian Angel was specifically monitoring our frequency and knew exactly when to communicate with us. That level of operational awareness indicates detailed, advanced planning. Should have been thinking about the technical aspects of the sniper's performance. Sir, I keep coming back to those 5 shots. Perfect accuracy at that range requires not just skill, but also detailed knowledge of ballistics, weather conditions, and target behavior. This wasn't a lucky amateur. Patterson had received a response to his general message inquiry, but it hadn't provided the answers he was hoping for. I heard back from higher headquarters. No special access programs, no classified operations, no coalition forces in that sector. According to official channels, Guardian Angel doesn't exist. Kim brought up something that had been bothering him since the medical evacuation. Sir, I've been thinking about the timing. Guardian Angel appeared exactly when we needed help the most, provided exactly the support we required, then disappeared without a trace. That's almost too perfect to be coincidental. Major Williams had been analyzing satellite imagery of the area taken before and after the engagement. I've got photos from 6 hours before the firefight and 3 hours after extraction. I can see your team's positions clearly, along with evidence of the Taliban fighters, but there's no sign of anyone else in the area. Park studied the satellite photos over Williams' shoulder. Ma'am, could Guardian Angel have approached and departed outside the time frame of these photos? Maybe he was already in position long before our mission began. Williams considered that possibility while reviewing the timestamps on the imagery. It's possible, but that would suggest advanced knowledge of your mission and detailed planning to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Rodriguez was examining the topographical details of Guardian Angel's suspected position. Sir, that ridgeline offers excellent fields of fire across the entire valley. Someone positioned there could observe and engage targets throughout the area where we were operating. Torres had been checking mission schedules and personnel assignments throughout the region. I've confirmed that all sniper teams assigned to this area of operations were accounted for in other locations during your engagement. Nobody was supposed to be in that sector. Morrison was beginning to suspect they were dealing with something beyond normal military operations. Sir, what if Guardian Angel isn't part of the regular command structure? Could be a special mission unit operating independently of conventional forces. Patterson had considered that possibility, but found it troubling from a command perspective. If there are special operations assets in my area of responsibility that I'm not aware of, that creates serious coordination problems. We could have friendly fire incidents or conflicting missions. Chin brought up another technical detail that had impressed him during the engagement. Sir, Guardian Angel's communication skills were as professional as the shooting. Proper radio protocols, clear tactical language, appropriate coordination with our extraction. That indicates formal military training. Kim suggested a different approach to the investigation. Sir, maybe we should focus on the results rather than the methods. Guardian Angel saved American lives and eliminated enemy fighters. Does it really matter who it was or how it happened? Patterson understood Kim's perspective, but maintained his position as a responsible commander. Doc, I appreciate the sentiment, but as a leader, I need to understand all assets operating in my area. What happens next time when we might not be so lucky? Major Williams had been reviewing communication intercepts from Taliban radio networks in the region. I've got some interesting intelligence from enemy communications. They're talking about a ghost shooter who's been eliminating their fighters across multiple engagements. Morrison felt a surge of excitement at this new information. Ma'am, does that mean Guardian Angel has been operating in this area for an extended period? Williams nodded as she reviewed the translated intercepts. According to these communications, Taliban fighters have reported unexplained sniper attacks over the past 3 weeks. Always the same pattern, precise long-range shots that eliminate key personnel, then the shooter disappears without a trace. Rodriguez was intrigued by the pattern Williams had identified. Ma'am, are these attacks focused on specific types of targets, or are they random engagements? Williams studied her notes carefully. The pattern shows targeting of leadership elements, communications personnel, and heavy weapons operators. Guardian Angel appears to be systematically degrading enemy capabilities across the region. Shin realized what this meant for the broader tactical situation. Sir, if Guardian Angel has been operating for 3 weeks, that's a significant intelligence and operations asset that we haven't been coordinating with. Could be affecting our mission planning and target selection. Torres was concerned about the implications for force protection. If we have an unaccounted for asset operating independently, that could compromise other operations. What if Guardian Angel engages targets that we're trying to capture for intelligence purposes? Morrison saw the bigger picture emerging from the intelligence reports. Sir, it sounds like Guardian Angel isn't just a random sniper who happened to help us. This appears to be someone conducting a deliberate campaign against Taliban forces in our area of operations. Patterson was beginning to understand the scope of what they were dealing with. If that's true, then Guardian Angel is essentially conducting a one-person special operations campaign in our sector. The tactical impact could be significant. Kim brought up the medical implications of Guardian Angel's sustained operations. Sir, if someone has been conducting sniper operations for 3 weeks, they'd need significant logistical support. Food, water, ammunition, medical supplies. That's not a one-person operation. Parks suggested expanding the intelligence analysis. Sir, maybe we could map all the reported Guardian Angel engagements and look for patterns in location, timing, and target selection. Might help us predict where he'll operate next. Major Williams was already working on that analysis. I've plotted all the reported incidents on a tactical map. There's definitely a pattern emerging. Guardian Angel appears to be working systematically through Taliban leadership structure in this region. Rodriguez studied Williams' tactical display with professional interest. Ma'am, that's a very sophisticated targeting strategy. Someone has detailed intelligence on enemy organization and is conducting what amounts to a disruption campaign. Torres raised an important operational question. If Guardian Angel continues operating without coordination, we could have serious problems. What if one of our patrols encounters this sniper and mistakes him for an enemy? Morrison understood Torres' concern, but felt compelled to defend their mysterious benefactor. Sir, Guardian Angel has demonstrated excellent tactical awareness and communication skills. I doubt there would be a friendly fire incident. Patterson decided it was time to take more direct action. I'm going to contact the Regional Special Operations Command and see if they have any assets operating in our area under special access programs. Someone has to know who Guardian Angel is. Shin was still amazed by the technical proficiency they had witnessed. Sir, those 5 shots were absolutely perfect. No adjustment rounds, no ranging shots, just 5 targets eliminated with 5 bullets. That's beyond expert level. That's legendary marksmanship. Kim added his medical perspective on Guardian Angel's target selection. The sniper also showed excellent knowledge of human anatomy. Every shot was immediately fatal, which suggests someone with medical training or extensive combat experience. Major Williams had been analyzing the tactical implications of Guardian Angel's campaign. If the Taliban communications are accurate, this sniper has eliminated over 20 enemy fighters in the past 3 weeks. That's having a significant impact on their operational capabilities. Park was impressed by the psychological warfare aspect. Sir, it sounds like Guardian Angel is getting inside their heads. Taliban fighters are afraid to operate in areas where they might encounter this ghost shooter. Rodriguez considered the broader strategic implications. Ma'am, if Guardian Angel continues degrading Taliban leadership and morale, it could significantly impact their ability to conduct operations throughout this region. Patterson received a message on his secure communication device and read it quickly before addressing the team. I just heard back from Regional Command. They're sending a special investigations team to conduct a thorough analysis of Guardian Angel's activities. Morrison hoped the investigation would provide answers rather than just more questions. Sir, will they be sharing their findings with us? We're the ones who actually worked with Guardian Angel in combat. Patterson nodded. Absolutely, Jake. You and Your team are the only people who have directly communicated with Guardian Angel. Your input will be crucial to understanding what's happening here. Torres brought up a practical concern about future operations. Sir, if Guardian Angel continues operating independently, should we modify our mission planning to account for possible sniper support? Patterson considered that question carefully. We can't plan operations based on assets we can't control or communicate with reliably. Guardian Angel helped you out, but we can't count on that support being available for future missions. Chun suggested a different approach to establishing contact. Sir, what if we set up a regular communication schedule on the frequency Guardian Angel used? Maybe leave messages expressing our appreciation and requesting a meeting. Kim supported Chen's idea. That's a good suggestion. Guardian Angel demonstrated willingness to communicate during our emergency. Maybe he'd be open to more detailed coordination. Major Williams had one more piece of intelligence that might be relevant. I've been analyzing Guardian Angel's operational pattern, and there's something interesting. The sniper appears to avoid operations during certain time periods, suggesting possible resupply or rest cycles. Rodriguez saw the tactical significance of Williams' observation. Ma'am, that could help us predict when Guardian Angel might be available for support or when we might be able to establish contact. Morrison looked around the room at the assembled intelligence and operations personnel. I want to emphasize that Guardian Angel saved our lives out there. Whatever the command implications might be, we owe this person a debt of gratitude. Patterson agreed completely with Morrison's sentiment. Absolutely, Jake. My concerns are purely operational. From a personal standpoint, Guardian Angel is a hero who saved the lives of American service members. As the debriefing session concluded, the mystery of Guardian Angel remained unsolved. But the intelligence analysis had revealed that their mysterious benefactor was conducting a much larger operation than anyone had initially realized. The investigation was just beginning, and the implications for future operations in the region were significant. Somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan, a highly skilled sniper was conducting a personal war against the Taliban, and no one in the official chain of command knew who it was or why they were doing it. 3 days after the engagement, the Special Investigations team arrived at Forward Operating Base Chapman aboard an unmarked Black Hawk helicopter. The team was led by Colonel Marcus Webb from the Joint Special Operations Command, accompanied by 2 intelligence analysts and a senior master sergeant with extensive special operations experience. Morrison and his team were summoned to a secure briefing room where Colonel Webb had set up a comprehensive investigation center. Maps, photographs, communication equipment, and laptops covered every available surface, creating the appearance of a military intelligence fusion center. Webb was a career special operations officer with over 20 years of experience in the most classified programs within the military. His presence suggested that Guardian Angel's activities had attracted attention at the highest levels of the special operations community. Gentlemen, I'm here to get to the bottom of this Guardian Angel situation. Webb began without preamble. What you experienced 3 days ago is part of a much larger pattern that has implications for operations throughout this theater. Rodriguez noted Webb's serious demeanor and realized that their mysterious sniper had become a significant intelligence priority. Sir, has Guardian Angel been operating in other areas besides our sector? Webb nodded as he consulted a thick folder of classified documents. Guardian Angel, or someone using identical tactics, has been reported in 6 different provinces over the past 2 months. Always the same pattern: precision long-range shots eliminating high-value targets, then disappearing without a trace. Morrison felt a mixture of amazement and concern. Sir, that's an incredibly wide area of operations for a single individual. How is that even possible logistically? One of Webb's intelligence analysts, a captain named Stevens, provided additional details. We've documented over 40 confirmed kills attributed to Guardian Angel across multiple provinces. The level of tactical mobility and operational security is unlike anything we've seen before. Chun was impressed by the scale of operations Stevens had described. Sir, that's an average of almost 1 kill every other day for 2 months. plus the tactical movement required to operate across multiple provinces. This has to be more than one person. Webb agreed with Chen's assessment. That's one possibility we're investigating. Guardian Angel could be a team of snipers rather than a single individual. But the ballistic evidence suggests all shots were fired using the same weapon system. Kim brought up the logistical challenges of such an extended operation. Sir, sustaining operations at that level for 2 months would require significant support infrastructure. Someone would need to provide food, water, ammunition, intelligence, and medical support. Webb's second analyst, a major named Harrison, had been analyzing the pattern of Guardian Angel's activities. We've identified what appears to be a systematic campaign against Taliban command and control structure. Guardian Angel isn't targeting random fighters. This is strategic warfare. Park studied the maps and charts Webb's team had prepared. Sir, the level of planning and intelligence required for that kind of campaign suggests access to classified information and sophisticated analytical capabilities. Webb confirmed Park's observation. Exactly. Guardian Angel appears to have detailed knowledge of Taliban organizational structure, movement patterns, and communication protocols. That information isn't available to random personnel. Torres, who had joined the briefing at Webb's request, raised an important operational concern. Sir, if Guardian Angel has access to that level of classified intelligence, we need to know how. Could be a security breach or unauthorized access to sensitive systems. Webb had been investigating that possibility extensively. We've conducted a thorough review of all personnel with access to relevant intelligence. No unauthorized access or security breaches have been identified. Guardian Angel's information appears to come from independent sources. Morrison was puzzled by Webb's findings. Sir, how is it possible for someone to develop that level of tactical intelligence independently? Taliban operational information is highly compartmented and closely guarded. Master Sergeant Riley, Webb's senior enlisted advisor, provided a possible explanation. Sir, Guardian Angel could be developing intelligence through direct observation and pattern analysis. Someone with the right training could build a comprehensive tactical picture over time. Rodriguez considered Riley's suggestion carefully. That would require extended reconnaissance and surveillance operations. Someone would need to spend weeks or months studying Taliban activities in multiple areas. Webb revealed another piece of the puzzle that had emerged during their investigation. We found evidence that Guardian Angel has been intercepting Taliban communications and conducting surveillance of their leadership meetings. This is sophisticated intelligence collection, not random observation. Kim was amazed by the scope of operations Webb was describing. Sir, that sounds like a one-person intelligence agency combined with a precision strike capability. The training and resources required would be extraordinary. Stevens had been analyzing Guardian Angel's targeting methodology. The sniper appears to be prioritizing targets based on their intelligence value and operational impact. Lower-level fighters are ignored in favor of commanders, communication specialists, and technical experts. Chen realized the implications of Stevens' analysis. Sir, that's exactly how professional special operations units conduct targeting. Guardian Angel is fighting like a highly trained military professional, not a random vigilante. Webb decided it was time to reveal the most significant development in their investigation. We've established communication contact with Guardian Angel. He agreed to meet with representatives from your team for a face-to-face discussion. Morrison felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. Sir, when and where is this meeting supposed to take place? Webb consulted his secure communication device before responding. Tomorrow at 1400 hours at a location Guardian Angel will designate. He insisted that only personnel from your team attend the meeting. Rodriguez was curious about Guardian Angel's communication protocols. Sir, how did you establish contact? We never figured out how to reach him after our engagement. Harrison explained the communication process. Guardian Angel monitors certain radio frequencies on a regular schedule. Once we identified the pattern, we were able to establish two-way communication. Park wondered about the security implications of the proposed meeting. Sir, how do we know this isn't some kind of trap? Taliban fighters could be using Guardian Angel's identity to lure us into an ambush. Webb had considered that possibility extensively. We verified Guardian Angel's identity through detailed questions about your engagement 3 days ago. Only someone who was actually there could know the specific details he provided. Torres raised operational security concerns about the meeting. Sir, what's the command structure for this meeting? Are we operating under special orders or normal chain of command? Webb explained the unique circumstances surrounding their investigation. This operation is being conducted under special authority from Joint Special Operations Command. Normal command channels have been informed, but aren't directly involved. Morrison understood the sensitive nature of what they were dealing with. Sir, it sounds like Guardian Angel has become a strategic intelligence priority rather than just a local operational issue. Webb confirmed Morrison's assessment. Absolutely. Guardian Angel's activities have had significant impact on enemy operations throughout the theater. Understanding who this person is and how they're operating is crucial for future planning. Kim brought up medical considerations for the meeting. Sir, should I prepare any specific medical equipment? We don't know Guardian Angel's physical condition after 2 months of independent operations. Riley suggested a practical approach to the medical preparation. Pack standard field medical supplies, but don't overload. Guardian Angel has been operating independently for months, so he's probably in good physical condition. Stevens had been reviewing intelligence about the proposed meeting location. Guardian Angel will designate a site that provides security and escape routes for both parties. Standard procedure for clandestine meetings. Chun was curious about what questions they should ask during the meeting. Sir, what specific information are we trying to obtain from Guardian Angel? Webb provided a list of priority intelligence requirements. We need to know who he is, how he's been operating independently for so long, where his intelligence comes from, and what his long-term intentions are. Rodriguez suggested including tactical questions as well. Sir, I'd also like to know about his equipment and training. The marksmanship we observed was exceptional even by special operations standards. Park brought up a question that had been bothering him since their engagement. Sir, why did Guardian Angel help us? What motivation does someone have for conducting a personal campaign against the Taliban? Webb admitted that motivation was one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Guardian Angel. That's something we definitely need to understand. Personal vendettas can be unpredictable and potentially dangerous for ongoing operations. Morrison realized the weight of responsibility his team was carrying. Sir, this meeting could provide answers to questions that have strategic implications for the entire theater of operations. Webb agreed with Morrison's assessment. Exactly. Guardian Angel represents either a significant intelligence asset or a potential security threat. Either way, we need to know who we're dealing with. Torres asked about contingency plans for the meeting. Sir, what if Guardian Angel doesn't show up or the meeting doesn't provide the answers we need? Webb had prepared for multiple scenarios. We'll continue the investigation using conventional methods. But this meeting represents our best opportunity to understand Guardian Angel's true identity and intentions. Harrison had been monitoring intelligence reports from the region where the meeting would take place. Sir, Taliban activity in that area has decreased significantly over the past week. Guardian Angel's operations appear to be having a measurable impact on enemy morale. Riley provided a final briefing on security procedures for the meeting. Standard protocols for clandestine meetings apply. Weapons carried, but not displayed, communication equipment ready, but discreet, escape routes identified, and rehearsed. As the briefing concluded, Morrison looked at his team and realized they were about to participate in one of the most unusual meetings in special operations history. Tomorrow they would finally learn the identity of the mysterious sniper who had saved their lives and was conducting a personal war against the Taliban. Webb's investigation had revealed that Guardian Angel was much more than a random individual with good shooting skills. This was someone with professional military training, sophisticated intelligence capabilities, and the tactical expertise to conduct sustained operations behind enemy lines. The meeting would either provide answers to the mystery that had puzzled military intelligence for months, or it would raise even more questions about the identity and motivations of one of the most effective special operations personnel anyone had ever encountered. Morrison felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension as he prepared for tomorrow's meeting. Finally, they would learn the truth about Guardian Angel and understand how one person had managed to conduct such an effective campaign against a well-organized enemy force. The implications for future operations would depend entirely on what they learned during their face-to-face meeting with the most mysterious and effective sniper any of them had ever encountered.